He is the Oscar-winning screenwriter of 12 Years a Slave, who was the creator, writer, and director of ABC's new dramatic series, American Crime. Please welcome John Ridley. There he is. John, how you doing, sir? Great to see you.
How are you?
I am very anxious to see your show. It is highly anticipated, and I think it says a lot about television that you are coming off an Oscar win. You won for 12 Years a Slave last year. You got the statue there. Years ago, no one who just came off an Oscar win would ever go to television. Patty Chayefsky didn't write Network and then go to, hey, I'm going to want to do a Rockford Files now.
Yeah, well.
It says something about TV, right, and where it's come?
In all the platforms, broadcast, cable, streaming, it is a new world, and it's great to be there. I will say ABC invited me to be part of this long before the Oscar was on the horizon. So the fact that they wanted to tackle subject matter that's about who we are, where we are, how we view each other, and is complicated, really says a lot about, again, where TV is going.
What they wanted to tackle is getting more money, and what happened in TV is that, I must say, this network for years has done shows like this, and then everybody got the idea, oh, that's what American people want to see. So you saw it now on other cable networks, and now we're seeing it. This is a broadcast network for the first time that's doing something.
But if I may say, though, I don't have a problem with a network wanting to make more money if part of that strategy is having shows that have people of color in front of the camera, behind the camera, talking about issues that are not only important to us, but important to everybody, and ABC is doing that. So I don't want to sound like a shill for the mouse house,
but we all love money. We're Americans, and there is nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with loving money.
Unless it's a police department that is making money.
We're going to get to that, yes. But I just want to ask you one more question about this show. It seems like it's going to be, I think in the Mauser, I can see critics saying humanizing crime, because usually in America, the criminal is just a prop for the good guy to get off a one-liner and blow his head off. You're going a little deeper. I mean, this show, it shows crime, but unlike other shows, it shows the aftermath, the effects on the victims, how it bleeds into the life of people around the event. You think America is ready for that, for actually humanizing crime and looking into the reasons why crimes are committed?
I hope so, because the things that we are seeing happening across the country, they are not of any one thing or the other. They are complicated. They're complex issues. As you said earlier, that they go beyond the headlines. We have the advantage of being able to turn the page, but the people who are in these circumstances, the families of the victims, the accused, the families of the accused, it doesn't go away in 45 minutes. So I think that audiences, I mean, look, we had an amazing number last night. Almost 9 million people watched the show. I think audiences are ready for something more, and I appreciate that they chose the show to examine these things.
I mean, as someone who's done so much research, I'm sure you have, as you always do, on crime, why do you think crime has gone down, as it has, almost across the board in this country, for years now? I mean, there are theories from everything from abortion is legal, so less unwanted babies are born, to lead in paint.
I've heard that. I've heard that.
I'm just asking what you
I would say there are many things. The aging demographics, access, the fact that even though we are in difficult times, that the economy is better. I think, unfortunately, you're still seeing people who are disadvantaged, who get locked in a cycle. Young people of color, once you get convicted of a crime, if you go to jail, it becomes that much harder to get a job. So there are cycles that continue. But we are all sold on the fear. It's violent crime. It's all out there. The FBI statistics say, no, we are a safer society. We are actually a more respectful society. But again, you look at something like Ferguson, beyond an individual getting shot, the surprising thing about these reports is just the daily indignities that are heaped upon, and I mean heaped upon, a community that no one would pay attention to until and unless a young man, unfortunately again, an unarmed black man, is killed in the streets, and people rise up. But it is unfortunate because the cycle exists. And when our show came up, it was after Trayvon Martin, and there was a part of me that thought, well, maybe we're past something. But to go back into the cycle, I think we have to look at why. Even if crime is going down, why do we still see the same effects on a particular group over and over again?
Well, let's talk about that now, because obviously this was the big story of the week, I thought, the Justice Department report from Ferguson. And to me, it is the smoking gun about racism that I think we need in this country, because when you look at recent polls about what Republicans, especially conservatives, think. 61% in a Pew survey say the issue of race has gotten too much attention. Millennials, 58% millennials, discrimination against whites has become as big a problem as discrimination against blacks. There is this view, right, that reverse racism somehow is worse than real racism. This, to me, is the smoking gun that we found out. Here's Eric Holder. These are his words. He said, "A community where local authorities consistently approach law enforcement not as a means for protecting public safety, but as a way to generate revenue."
Yeah.
That is particularly sick. To harass people just trying to get to and from a minimum wage job. And instead of paying taxes, nobody wants to pay taxes anymore, use the police department as a shakedown organization against the poorest members of society. It's just ugly.
It is. I mean, it is, and again, the cascade effect. And in this report, you hear about individuals who get hit with a $150 fine, which, you know, nobody wants to pay that kind of money. But for a lot of people, it's not as easy as going on a website and putting in your credit card and paying that. And if you can't make it to court, if you can't afford that, if you go to court, you arrive late and it's shut down, that $151 then becomes $250, $300. There was a report of a woman started at $151, ended up $1,000. She's still paying it off. People lose their jobs over things like this. It is a smoking gun, I think, to some people. I think to a lot of people of color, this is business as usual.
It is. The question I'd like to ask, and let me ask everybody this one, how likely is it that Ferguson is the one town where this is going on? That we just happen to stumble upon the one place where this kind of racism exists? How many Fergusons are there?
I know it isn't, because I did a lot of research on this for my last book. I spent years sitting, about a year and a half sitting in the courts of New York, and I heard story after story that's just like that. I actually met a guy who spent a year trying to go to jail because he couldn't afford a $150 fine for riding a bicycle the wrong way down the sidewalk. And there's courtrooms full of these people every single day.
The thing about Ferguson that's really stunning is you've got a town that's 2/3 black and a police department that's almost entirely white. 90% of the arrests are in the black community. So, I mean, just on the face of it, you see the prescription for the kinds of abuses that we've seen.
Yeah, and clearly it's not just Ferguson. This is happening in other places. But I think we do have to be careful. I mean, there are, you know, the example of New Orleans, for example, where it's pretty evenly divided. I mean, the city was around 60% black. This was like in 2010, and the police force was about 59% black. And yet, the Justice Department, under Eric Holder, actually went down and said, we've got racial issues there of black officers dealing with black citizens there. So it's not always a black-white thing, but I do think it's a real issue. And I think the larger issue, too, is even just the civil forfeiture generally is a issue that I think we need to take on. Of people's property being seized, their cars, their homes. I mean, and they're not guilty, but what it takes to go get that back.
It seems like if these were white people, this would be a Tea Party issue. This would be big government, right? No?
Well, I think civil forfeiture reform is something Republicans and Democrats can be a part of.
I actually think problems within the criminal justice system have actually united. You see Rand Paul out there on sentencing reform. Yeah. So there is a coming together of the left and right on this particular
issue. For example, the Selma anniversary. Why didn't any Republican leaders go with Obama to Selma? It seemed like an obvious. It's not even something you actually have to.
It's both. If it actually occurs that way, it is both shameful and it's just plain stupid. I mean, it's shameful. It's just the way you should be dealing with other human beings and recognizing that. But it's also stupid if you're a political party that says you want to do outreach and you're kidding me, you've got nobody there. I heard last minute that maybe Kevin McCarthy or somebody's going to go. But the fact it's last minute is a shame.
Probably going to go now.
After that.
Now, let me read you a quote. This is from Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach. He said, under Obama, this is a reaction, I guess, to the Ferguson events this week. Under Obama, the word is going to come down that there won't be any prosecutions of black criminals. Wild guess which party? You know, I always say not every Republican is a racist, but if you're a racist and you're looking for a party, It just is not that hard. Okay, last issue, the Obamacare suit. Before the Supreme Court started to hear about Obamacare, this is the second time this has come up before the Supreme Court. As we know, a few years ago, Chief Justice John Roberts saved the day. Liberals got to give him a pound for that one, right? I'm sure a lot of conservatives still hate him for that. We don't know how it's going to go this time. Now, it's a little too boring to get into the minutiae of this case, but if the Supreme Court rules against Obamacare on this specific ruling, they say, the experts all say, the whole thing will unravel. What's interesting is that when you go before the court, you have to have what's called standing, which means you have to have a legitimate case. Just any fool can't go up there. And yet, the case has been brought by 4 fools. Listen to this. One of the people bringing this case against Obamacare wrote that Obama is the Antichrist. I rest my case. The Antichrist who won his election by getting his Muslim people to vote for him. And he's a veteran. He's a veteran, which means he doesn't have standing because veterans already have their health care. It doesn't affect him. He's already getting socialism.
Bill, there's 4 folks in this case, and I think there is standing. Look, the federal judge.
Let me just read the other ones. The second one is also a veteran, also getting socialism. The third one is getting Medicare in June. Another case of getting the socialism that everybody should be getting. And she
Yeah, because the Veteran Affairs program's so fabulous for our veterans, right? Yeah.
Well, actually, the VA program is pretty good for most. No?
No. Does anybody ever talk about a scandal? It's better than nothing. That's our answer to our veterans, that it's better than nothing.
Yeah, but this whole thing is about uninsured people. It's about people who have no
right.
But why doesn't everybody have? I don't understand. Poor people get socialism. Veterans, soldiers get socialism. Old people. Why am I out of the picture? Why am I? What is the prejudice against me? I'm not a soldier, and I'm not poor, and I'm not old, and I'm not disabled. So fuck you. You're on your own.
Which the whole
you're a
case
rich white guy, and you're being prosecuted for it. That's why you're a rich white guy. You guys cannot catch a break, and I'm sick of it.
The whole case is predicated on this notion that Congress didn't intend people to get subsidies who are in the exchanges, on these federal exchanges. Nobody believes that Congress didn't intend everybody in the exchanges to get these subsidies. And so the court would have to go back on its basic precedent, which is legislative intent. This is just a way to try and unravel Obamacare. And let me tell you, when I was young and I had a child with a very serious illness, I was one of those people who almost went bankrupt, and I had insurance because the insurance was lousy. I couldn't switch because she had a pre-existing condition. And I think there are millions of Americans who are in the same position who have a lot riding on this, and it's more than just a game for ideologues to play.
Yeah, but this is a law. Need better health care in this country, and I'm all for health care reform, but this is a law that was not ready for prime time. Nobody read it before they voted for it, which is one reason the statement that's being questioned today, people are now saying it doesn't mean what we said it means. You can keep your doctor, but no, now you can't. Look, this has been challenged in courts hundreds of times around the country, not just twice before the Supreme Court. It is a law that even now the CBO is coming out saying, we're talking about the uninsured, by 2025, over 30 million Americans still will be uninsured.
Among those
under
are
this law.
undocumented Americans. You
Some
want
of
them
those,
to get insurance?
that's 10 to 12 million. So what about the other 20?
It's a new
Can I ask
position.
one last question since we brought up the subject and it is about socialism? You saw the statistics on the economy. I recited them in the monologue. They're pretty amazing economy. Republicans always said Obama was a socialist. Does that mean they were wrong about that, or does socialism work? And when did you stop beating your wife?